Right, we are going to chat about resistance because, especially right now, right, holiday season, um, not just because, like, when this video is coming out, if you listen to it later, but not just that one reason, but um, resistance can come, right? A lot of times where we're almost feeling like, why am I going back? Why am I doing this? Or almost that little bit of a tug of war. And if you've been here a minute, I talk about Patricia, and Patricia can be really loud during this time. So we're gonna kind of go through kind of that internal conflict and then how to work with it to move forward, right? And so there's like lots of pieces to this. And, I want us to just think through anything that might be coming up for you, things that you're noticing resistance wise. It could be tracking, it could be nutrition, it could be even just like things that you've done before, or you're like, I should be doing that. And all of a sudden, there's maybe some resistance there. So, this time of year in general, with the holidays and winter and slowing down, it it can be a little bit more where we feel it. So, biggest thing I want us to think about is, we can sometimes see resistance as this enemy. It's like, oh, why don't I just do the thing, right? Um, but it's anytime resistance is popping up within us, it's proof that your systems are expanding, right? Things that you are working to, you yourself are expanding. And that's not a bad thing that there is resistance. And it's also not a bad thing that you're trying to grow and be better. And so a lot of times we kind of can see this resistance piece in such a bad light where it's like, "Ah, I just want it to go. I want it to go away." So I think what we can think about in questions, like even jot and write these down, but like like just to get our brain thinking, like think of maybe a time recently, or maybe it's in the past, um, of just a time you've had that resistance pop up. And I want you to think, how do you make a good choice or a not good choice when resistance shows up, right? What choices are you making? How do you decide, right? How is your decision making process in that moment? When one part of you is like wanting to move you forward, but then this other part of you is kind of pushing you back. What what do you do? Right? What do you do? And you may be like, I don't know. That's okay. A lot of times, I know I ask a lot of questions, but I ask because a lot of times we're not even aware of what we're doing or why. And that awareness is always, always, always so important. And so I like to ask questions. So, in your body, resistance can sometimes feel like these things. Now, there's other things. This is not an exhaustive list, but heaviness in the chest, right? Flutters, or even just like that nauseousy feeling in your stomach, um, throat feeling really tight, the urge to distract yourself, like maybe you go clean, or maybe you jump on social media, or maybe you watch a show, or maybe you do something else as like oh, I'm gonna do this because I'm avoiding this. A racing mind, or your head feels really, really foggy. And then even like you're just like almost like collapsing your posture, or like slumping, your body naturally will kind of go into these modes when we're feeling resistance. And so it's not just like a mental game, it's also a very physical thing. Like your body is physically responding to the resistance. I share this because this will come in handy much later. But also know, like I said, you may notice other things. So getting a chance to notice like when you're resistant, what where it's happening in your body can be super powerful. Now you know me. I like a good definition because I think sometimes when we think of resistance, it's like it's going against something, right? It's like this push and pull. But I really, really like um thinking of it this way. So resistance is opposing something, right? And it's not saying it's a good or bad thing. It's just opposing something is resistance. And so it's a force that's working against another force. So when something resists, it tries to prevent movement, right? Or change. So when we think about that, I really love that definition because that's exactly what it feels like happening in our bodies, right? There's this one part of me that wants to move forward, while this other part of me is like pulling me back. And that piece is so really what we're looking at is a force versus a force. Like we've got this like dissonance, right? And so what we tend to see, right, or what we tend to tell ourselves, or the stories we tend to tell ourselves is like, you're lazy, you're unmotivated, you're distracted, you're just insert thing here, right? And this is where, funnily enough, where I see people do is like, oh, I'm not doing it, so I need to force harder, right? Like I need to go hard. And that usually ends up backfiring. But usually what happens, right, is there's an identity mismatch. We've got resistance and your nervous system gets involved. Your body is getting involved because there's this mismatch. That's why we're feeling such this like tug of war inside because who you have been, right? Where you've been, who you are, how you've lived for a really long time. And then there's this like dissonance with who you're trying to be and becoming and pushing yourself to be. And it can be a piece of a mindset. So like I know I said it's not mindset, but like hear me. Yes, the mind is absolutely, if you know anything about me, you know. Mind is absolutely, absolutely involved, but it starts in your body first, right? Because this is something you've done for so long, and now we're trying to change it, and there is a unsafety feeling, uncertain, but a lot of like protective modes start to pop up. So when you choose growth, which is what we want. It's like, well, come on, Zero, that's what we want. Yes, same. But anytime we're choosing and becoming and stepping in, that's actually activating our sympathetic nervous system. So when I'm saying that, sympathetic is just your fight and flight response, right? Where we're like, ugh, like, let's go. Now that's real, right? This is science here happening. Um, then your brain is also in a space where it's meeting uncertainty, right? When you're growing, you're stepping into something you've never been, right? We know this, but with that comes uncertainty. Uncertainty is scary for the brain because the brain thrives on certainty. The brain thrives on patterns. The brain thrives on efficiency. So when we do something and growing is going to be inefficient, growing is going to feel challenging, growing is going to feel unsafe to the brain, uncertain to the brain. And so when that happens, you're going to have resistance pop up. Patricia is going to be so loud during this time, it's ridiculous, right? And what happens is your body, your systems are all scanning for threats. It's like, this is a threat, this is a threat, this is a threat. Because even if we don't want to stay, right, we want to grow, we don't want to stay here. We don't want to stay here. This, this here, I call it like the comfy hell, right? Where it's like, even if I hate it, my brain knows this so well. It is so certain, and I know exactly what to expect here. So that feels safe, right? We've taught our body that this is safe, and that's okay, right? You're hearing me say this is okay, and you're like, it's not okay, Sierra. Like, come on. So, what I want you to know is like resistance isn't all mental, right? It's not this like emotional, it is emotional. Like all of the pieces do get involved, but there is a place where this is coming down to a root of safety, biological safety. And that is how we're wired, right? We're wired not to like just thrive. Like, I know that sounds really sad, but our brains and our bodies were wired to survive. And so when we're in that space, it's always trying to think, how can we keep you safe? How can we keep you safe? And now this is where resistance pops up the most. And your identity plays a huge piece of this puzzle. So think if you've been doing something for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, there's going to be a lot more resistance. There is. And I don't care who you are. And a lot of times we think, I need to change this on a dime and just go. But we both know if you've had something ingrained in a safety, this safety piece for so long, undoing that and learning and growing and pushing into this next level is going to take time. And I don't mean that in like a, oh, you got to just, you can't move forward. Absolutely. That's what we're here to talk about. But at the same time, it's also realizing sometimes we want change faster than our body and our brain are willing to work. And I say that like I'm kind of going off on a tangent, surprise, but I say that because very real, like very real. And so I want you to just pause and just even like as you're seeing this thing that you're maybe having resistance on, I want you to step back and ask yourself, has this been something I've done in my life for a really long time, right? And start to look at that as like, wow, like this used to be something that protected me. This used to be something that did serve me for a time. For example, my binge eating, right? I that served me for a time. And I don't mean like I don't look at it as like, oh, that was so good. So glad we did that. Um, but when I look at it, I'm like, there was a part of me that it was serving me and supporting me. And even though it was a hell and I hated it, it was helping, like bunny quotes so hard there. I'm not saying like it was actually helping, but it was in some aspect of that version of Sierra, it was helping, right? So in that space, like breaking that wasn't just like, I'm done, like I'm binge eating one day and being like, I'm done the next, go me. It's a process, right? My identity had to shift. I had to shift. And resistance is going to pop up. So, with this, I want you to think there's this like almost like the three selves. You've got your old self, you've got your resistant self, and your future self. And with that, right, old self is going to activate the resistant self, but the future self is who we want to lean into, right? And that's who we want to be. And a lot of times we lean back into the old self because she's familiar, she's cozy, she's comfortable, especially when that resistant self comes up. And the gap between these, right, is resistance, right? The gap between the old self and your future self, that is the resistance. So when we're thinking like, oh, resistance is showing up, it's not the enemy, right? It's really, really not. The three selves, the resistance is just a signal. It's like, hello, we're changing. Hello, what is this? Hello. And your brain is looking for some kind of safety, some kind of certainty, which is why we go back to the old self. So this is the three selves, right? I mean, I know right here, very simple. But what I want you to see is kind of how, like, these are all three part of us, all of us. I don't care who you are, same, right? I'm in another prep for a bikini comp, and I am pushing some things and pushing myself into growth and challenges with everything this prep. And even though like my prep has been so far very smooth, but my posing and my nutrition and things like that, I dug a little bit deeper and I'm challenging a lot there mentally, physically, emotionally. And this is so real, right? So we've got over here our old self, right? These are your familiar patterns. These are what we know. This is your safety net. This is your comfort zone. This is like, hey, if I'm not growing and changing, right here, where you are, where your feet are. Now, the resistant self, right, is we see it as this enemy, but it really is our protector. In its own way, it's like, I'm trying to protect you, I'm trying to keep you safe. And we want to look at that as just a reminder like, hey, this is here. This is not a bad thing that I'm seeing resistance. That's what we see. It's bad. Go away. Leave me alone. Ah, and then, and then it's like, that's kind of what I see in my head. But your resistant self is your protector. They're trying to keep you safe. They're trying to keep you in a space where we're not creating chaos in the body, right? It's almost trying to regulate your nervous system if you think about it. Less chaos, right? But your future self is your internal leader, right? She is your leader. And our goal, right, with all three selves, our goal is to choose your future self while allowing your protective self to feel safe. And that is the key of handling resistance, leading with your future self, but also looking at your resistant self, being like, hey, I see you and I've got you, right? Which is the hard part, which is the hard part. Because resistance, like I said earlier, it's information, it's a signal, it's just anything that's pulling us away from the direction we really want to go. And if that it just means we're protecting something that matters or that used to matter a lot to you, right? And it's not bad, it's not failure. I want you to keep thinking when I'm seeing resistance, this is information. This is my body trying to tell me something. This is my body needing safety right now. And I'm pushing. That's not bad that I'm pushing, but I also need to see here. And that's really, really important. So, for example, things that like we can think and our brain is like, I'm lazy, I'm unmotivated, I'm inconsistent, right? But I want you to think, no, my system is protecting me here. Old pattern is we force. Like, I have to make this happen. I have to track this macro. I have to do this. Where the new pattern is not forcing something, but opening ourselves, opening our mind, opening our bodies, right? Into a place where we do feel safe. Now, some scenarios, right? We may see things pop up like a very real thing right now, right? Holidays popping in. Just a second. I'm going to pause this. My dog is being obnoxious. Give me a second. Teddy, stop. Okay, come on. I don't know why you're barking, but here. Okay. I don't know if that even pause the video. Um, but anywho, an example of resistance that can pop up, right? Because sometimes it just helps to have like a real life example. I don't want to track dinner tonight. Maybe you're going to a social function, or maybe you're going to, maybe it's just been a long day. There's been lots of stuff at school and work and life, and you're just like, I don't want another thing, right? So it might be like, I don't want to really track dinner tonight. I'll just not do it. And maybe there's this like body cue where your chest feels really heavy, even your brain feels really like foggy and just like overwhelmed. And the urge to avoid pops up, right? Because avoiding in the past has probably served you in some capacity, right? And a lot of times our body is going to push away from pain and always to pleasure. It will seek the easiest route possible because it makes your brain more efficient, right? It's much easier to avoid than sometimes to step in and do the hard thing, especially when resistance is popping up. So the thought is like, it's okay. Like I'll start again tomorrow, right? Or I'll track tomorrow, or I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it the next day, or I'll start Monday, or whatever. But the reality is we know deep down that other emotions pop up, other things start to surface, and that can feel super frustrating because then you're feeling, yes, I'm getting this instant relief and instant like almost gratification and instant like, okay, I don't have to do that. Yay. But at the same time, there's shame and guilt and frustration and maybe even like what the hell's going on in your head. And that's where we don't like it. But then we kind of keep this loop happening where we maybe just be like, well, I don't feel like tracking dinner again tonight. And I don't feel like tracking dinner tomorrow. And they have this social function. I don't know how to do it. So I'll just not do it. Right. And the reality is like we can, it's just leaning in and leading with future self. So the choosing, we choose a path, right? A goal, a habit, a way of living. Like we're choosing this growth. You are making a decision, but we're also like something I really want us to understand is you're waking up this other part of you that wants something different. And it feels like we should only want this one thing, right? But it's very real that we're human and we're going to have this dissonance or resistance of like, there's a part of you that does seek comfort and wants less and ease and just, to me, almost like simple. And that is okay, especially when we're growing, to have these different parts of you and not be like, I just need to get it together, which is like the beat up sessions and what we say to ourselves, right? So you're waking up the part that like wants rest, craves comfort, is like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I don't know if I even believe I can do this. Self-doubt, right? Pops up. Part of you that wants certainty and safety, those parts are waking up inside of you when we choose this path. And for the record, I've said this, but repetition is the best. Your brain is wired to always move us closer to pleasure than to pain. And so if something feels more painful, we're always going to want to seek the easier route. That is how our brains are wired. And knowing this allows us to kind of pause, right? And so you are in this place where new systems have to take place. And this whole system of you in parts means that there's different things that you're going to want at different times. And our instinct, right, Teddy, no, sir, is to get really critical, to beat ourselves down and to push, right? We're like, you stop, you do it harder, you do it more. Like, no, tomorrow I'm going to track everything perfectly and everything's going to be great. But reality is when we push, and we push really hard and we force, it's not even like I'm pushing and I feel good about it. It's like I'm forcing myself. Life is going to push back. Life is going to push back. And when life pushes back, it's just very real, right? So this is where it's like the force, right? Force, push, it's going to push back. Like real. Now the opening with what we really want. Oh, sorry. Why force doesn't work. Sorry. I'm jumping ahead. So when we force, what's happening is force equals dysregulation. Your body's immediately going to get dysregulated. And that's where you're going to go to inconsistency, right? We don't have any type of consistency. Then, of course, in our brain, inconsistency equals shame, guilt, frustration. Insert emotion here, all the emotions here. And then shame, what does that do? It actually creates more resistance. So the more we try to force something without allowing it to be and work with us, the more we're just going to keep this loop going, right? We're going to force, we're going to dysregulate, we're going to be like, I can't do this. Inconsistency, inconsistency to shame, shame, more resistance. And what we're building is actually like more like, that gap we talked about from the old self to the future self, we're almost like bringing that gap wider. So instead of it being like a gap, like right here, it's like now we just kind of push it back a little bit more. We've created more resistance. And so here, what we want to do is we kind of create this loop. We almost like recognize it, but then we just put it on repeat. And then we're like, why won't I change? Why am I frustrated? Why do I keep doing this? And so when we do that, right? Like think about it. You force yourself to go work out and you're like, I'm going to go work out, not just work out, but I'm going to work out really hard. But then what happens is like the next day you're burnt out and you end up missing like the next 3 days. So now we don't even have consistency with our workouts. It's like I just go hard really one day and then off. And then another example, you're forcing like super strict macros when you're like, I am just struggling tracking, right? I just tracking my food. Forcing the really strict macros can lead to binge, can lead to shame, and then we just restart the cycle. And then sometimes it's like we binge, we restrict really hard after the binge because then I'm like, got to get it together. And then what does it do? I binge again because I'm having to restrict, and there's no consistency. It's inconsistent, inconsistent, inconsistent. And you can see that like work out like so hard and then not at all, right? Like work super strict macros, then binge, then it's all over the place, right? And then avoidance always feels like relief. Like in the moment, avoidance feels like relief. But later, we know it caused this like identity crisis. It's extreme. That's extreme. Um, but also alignment, like of who you are and who you want to be. And so this is why like trying harder will never work. This is why, like, I'm just, hopefully I'll just get it together this week, or I'm gonna just do it harder this week, or I'm gonna try to track my macros. None of those things are actually like, it's kind of forced instead of working with. And that is the biggest thing that we want. We don't want to force. Forcing is just going to keep like I said, is going to create that bigger gap in your resistance and it's going to create more internal chaos in the body, in the mind. So the real work is learning to open, right? When you open, life opens. Okay. So learning to hold kind of both parts, the resistant self and the future self, holding space for both parts and being open. And I know that sounds so weird. You're like, how can I be open to resistance? I don't want it. Well, guess what? Resistance, when you're growing, is always, always, always going to be there. It's always going to be there. Like you can't get rid of it. And that means we need to meet each part of resistance with more curiosity and compassion, right? So, what I like to call this is when we have curiosity and compassion, we can look at it, it means loving awareness. Because when we can see Teddy, Teddy, stop. Come here. Stop. I don't know what's up with you today. But when we can actually see the resistance as like, hey, this is information, this is a signal, then we can hold it and instead of pushing it, be like, okay, I'm open to this resistance because I know that it means my body's trying to signal to me that I'm unsafe, that I'm uncertain, that I need to be seen in this resistant self, but I also want to keep moving forward. So we are open to the resistance. We lean in with curiosity and compassion versus force. And then we learn to ride with it. We learn to ride with it. So here's a couple of just examples like resistance that maybe you say, maybe you do, right? So it's like, I don't want to. This is prime Patricia, right? I don't want to. I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow. Um, what if I fail? What if I can't handle this? I can't handle this, right? I don't want to handle this. Very real. Um, like the moment you go like, oh, I'll track that later. Like, I'm not gonna do it right this second. I'll track it later. When you close My Fitness Pal, because like the numbers, you're trying to do your macros and like you can't get it right, and you're like, oh, screw this. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Close it. I'm not opening it again. When you may go to like your comfort food after a long day because you've been overloaded, you're stressed, like you're overwhelmed. Um, Maybe like even checking in feels really heavy because you're scared of disappointing yourself or maybe your coach. And know that no coach here is ever looking at you and being like, girl, you suck. And like, this is your report card. And if it's not all A's and perfect and ever, no, check-ins aren't a report card. They are a problem-solving session. And so it's like these pieces, um, are very real where we'll see resistance pop up or you want to work out or you're like, hey, I want to build these booty and like I want to build these shoulders and I want to build my body. But then you're like, oh, I just need 10 more minutes on the couch or I'll just do it tomorrow or whatever it is because maybe you are feeling tired or maybe you are just like, oh, this workout's going to be hard, right? All the things you might be telling yourself. The holidays are here. This one I think is very real for this time of the month. And this is where you'll see that resistant self kind of pop up because there are things you used to do during the entire holiday season that your future self is like, hey, this isn't us anymore. This isn't what we're doing. But there is this tug and pull. And so it's like you want to enjoy them, but you also want to stick to your goals. But then it's like, oh, I can't just stick to my goals and be perfect. So like, just go the other way, right? Um, and that's the thing. Resistance can pop up other places. These are just a couple of examples, but remind yourself like your resistant self is keeping you safe, trying to prevent pain, trying to avoid even like humiliation, embarrassment, frustration. And it's always trying to reduce your overwhelm, always. And so in training, it can sound like I don't want to increase my weight. Like I don't want to increase my weight. It can be like that last set, I'll just skip. It feels scary. Or it can be like, I'm tired. I'll just train tomorrow, right? These are real things. I know I've had clients share with me like that they're like, oh, I'm worried about getting injured, might be the other one. Um, what it sounds like in nutrition, like I'll make up macros later, right? I'll just make those up later, or one cookie becomes five, right? I'll just start again like after the holidays because it feels too heavy now. These are very much your resistant self trying to protect you, right? Trying to keep you safe, trying to prevent you from failing, trying to prevent you from feeling overwhelmed. And the reality is that resistant self just really, really needs to be seen. Sorry. But what it can also sound like, sorry, social situations is like, I don't know what to do, so screw it. Like, everyone else is enjoying their food and like going all ham, so I should too. Or I'll restart Monday, or I'll restart after the holidays, another one, because right now this just feels like too much. But this again, resistance is a signal, it's information. It's not a setback. It's not our enemy. It's information. It's like, hey, we actually need something here. So it's trying to help you, even when it feels like it's stopping you. It's trying to protect you and keep you safe, which is its job. Like, well, thank you, right? Like, thank you. But we're gonna move forward. Um, but what can happen is like when we have action with resistance, we tend to start judging ourselves a ton, right? We start avoiding things. We start numbing out, like disassociating. We just kind of like check out. We overthink, we over plan, we overanalyze, but we're not actually doing anything. We're just creating like more lists or more things, or like, oh, yes, I'm going to do this and this. And if I just got this together, I'll do, it's like we're spending more time in this internal think tank, wasting lots of time and mental energy than actually doing. We just quit, right? And sometimes it can lead into that like all or nothing mindset, which is very real. Because it can almost be like, right, all is being this perfect future self, or nothing is like just leaning into like my resistant self. When it's like we don't need to be perfect future self all the way yet. Like I don't know where that came where we have to be all in. It's like why do we have to go? We have this gap, right? And instead of closing the gap, we're like, let's let's go, future self, I'm here. Let's close the gap, right? Like let's close the gap and make that gap smaller and smaller because that's going to make that resistance less and less and less. So, any hoodles, force doesn't work. I hope you got that. Self-judgment isn't going to create alignment. Avoidance doesn't build trust, right? And force, and I see this all the time as a coach, force will work temporarily. I've seen people who are like, oh, all in, let's go. I'm going to change every little thing I've ever done in my life. But what it will do is you will get overwhelmed and burnt out. You will go back to that resistant self. We create a bigger gap and it creates a huge internal war. And that internal war tends to be more self-criticism, more beatdowns, more shame, more force. And what ends up happening is we continue this cycle of like force and then off, force and then off, instead of like moving, right? Like moving just ever so much toward that future self. So, what we want to do is learn to lead the resistance. Resistance is that identity mismatch, right? So, when the body resists, it's actually saying, who I used to be is still loud, right? She's still really present. She's still loud and she's louder than who I want to be. And that's okay because when we're changing, this is going to be real. Every single one of us, myself, I don't care who you are, is going through this. And so your job isn't to fight the old identity, it's to lead it. It's like to bring it home. It's like, this isn't home anymore. We're going to bring you with, I'm going to bring you with me. So it's like choosing that future identity, excuse me, over your fearful one. Thank you. So, what we want to do is lean in with more of this like compassion, right? Awareness without compassion, right? We're just aware, but we're being a complete asshole to ourselves. Pardon my language. That's going to continue to tighten the knot, right? It's going to make that resistance feel even more. Um, but awareness with compassion is what we're calling like loving awareness, where we're aware. We know that this resistance is not a bad thing. It's not the enemy. It's not that I need to force. It's saying, I see you, like, girl, I see you. I'm listening and I'm not pushing you away. I'm not fighting you, but I want us to work together to move forward because then we move from this place of like, I need to control everything to connection to self. And that is going to lead you all the time. So all parts are welcome. Just embrace her. And that can feel really hard, right? Because it's like the part that wants growth and the part that wants comfort. Like they both belong, they both deserve love, and they both deserve here to be seen. And so it's not how do we get rid of the resistance, right? It's really understanding what part of me is this resistance trying to protect right now. And it can be different things at different times. So, um, as we go in, it's like when we're thinking, a lot of times you gain this beautiful insight to qualities you already have inside of you that we can use and pull from. For example, compassion, resilience, resourcefulness, wisdom, autonomy. Like all of these beautiful qualities you possess are within that like you already have, right? Like that you have gotten you here, right? Even the resistant self now has grown. Like there was, if we would go back, right, we could just make this timeline, future self, and then it's like resistant self. But at one time, your resistant self now was the future self, right? There was a resistant self over here that was fighting for who you are now. right? Think about that. Like this, like I said, timeline. If we look back at your life, it's like we've been pushing and moving that needle forward. Um, but like you already have all these beautiful qualities that we can use now. And that's the beauty is like we already have a lot of things now that we can use and things that you may be using in other areas of your life that we can tap into. And so we don't have to push those parts away to move forward. We just need to listen and hold them and lead them and move them. And you're like, okay, well, how do I how do I lead them? I promise we'll get to that. But every time, right, resistance show up, you get a rep, right? You get a rep, like just like every freaking rep we do in our workouts, like, right? It's like every rep we do, we get better. Our form gets better. Our mind muscle connection gets better. But same thing internally, right? When you lead yourself and you get more reps at like leading versus forcing, you get more self trust, more emotional regulation. The identity shift happens. There's alignment, and we have this internal leadership. We get the practice that we need to close that gap and move us forward. And in my weird way of thinking, I guess, but like it almost gives resistance this purpose. It's like, yes, resistance is here, and it's just letting me be like, yep, I'm here because I'm trying to keep you safe. And what now I need to do is tell my body, hey, you are safe. I've got you, and I'm going to show you how I've got you, right? And it's going to build all of these beautiful pieces. And the more you do things, the more you trust yourself, the more you love. I mean, all of this to me builds like self-confidence, self trust, self-love. It's just um now when we're doing this, you're like, okay, how do we lead? And so I have a four-step process of how we're going to lead your resistant self because that's the goal. We want to lead with our future self, but see and hear this side of us. So I'm going to go through these really quick, but then there's more. There's always more, right? Um, so the four steps are we're going to notice. We're just going to get aware, right? Notice, we're going to listen to the resistant self and see what's popping up. We're going to name the resistant part, and then we're going to nurture her. So it's like, what choice would the woman I'm becoming make right now? Who's, and not who's, what's the next best choice I can make in this moment? And then the next part is like one small action or a micro action. I really like the word micro because I feel like micro, it's a weird thing. Micro seems much smaller than small. Is that doing it for you? Is it just me? But it's like, what's the micro action I can take to move forward, right? To lead with my future self, but also keep my resistant self feeling safe and seen. So, for this, how we can use it, right? You only need a moment. I know sometimes like doing these things when we're stressed and overwhelmed can feel like another thing. But I want to remind you this isn't another thing. This is your life and this is real. And so this is the chance to regulate yourself, right? To bring yourself down before we just go to that like, oh, I either have to choose her or not. It's like, no. It's like you don't need to feel calm. You don't need to feel like you've got it all together. We don't need to like resistance to go away. We don't need to fix. We just want to lead. But it's practicing and getting into the space where like your nervous system understands instead of it being like, you're wrong, you don't know, you don't get it. It's like, okay, let's work as a team. Like, let's work our two opposing selves as a team and see what I can do and make the next best move, right? So, step one, and I'm going to actually go through, like, I'll caveat here, I'm going to go through some examples, some actual, like, an actual example in a workbook here in a minute. But this is just the steps. So, we're going to just go over the steps so we kind of just have an idea of what they are. And then I am going to go through, like, an actual example so you can see, like, how it could be, like, real. And I want you to know Um, this isn't going to be some perfect thing. Like, obviously, the more you do it and the more you practice in these moments, the better you're going to get. And it might be something you'll notice they're all ends. Notice, notice name, nurture next. That's on purpose. So think about it too, of like, even if you need to write those 4 words on a post-it note and put it, on your fridge or in your pantry or in your gym bag or on your phone or, somewhere where you're seeing it, just to remind yourself to pause, because you're naturally not going to want to pause. That's not what your brain has done in the past. So make it noticeable, right? Somewhere where you can see it. Um, it helps so much. And that way it gives you, oh yeah, okay, I don't remember everything perfectly, but I do know I'm feeling resistance and I know I need to like take a second to like not just impulsively go to the resistant self, but lead her, right? So step 1 is notice, right? We're just going to listen and connect with body. Like, okay, pause, feel, sense. Like that's what we're going for. So it's like, where do you feel resistance in your body? Is it the chest, the throat, the head? Maybe it's the stomach. It could be other areas, but those tend to be kind of the heavy hitters. Where do you feel the resistance, right? Where is it coming from? And that connection to your body is really powerful. I know it sounds so silly sometimes, but like a lot of times we're not even realizing what we're feeling in the moment. We're just feeling all the things. We're feeling so much at once. And we're like, I don't want to feel this. It doesn't feel good. Ah. But feeling like, where's this popping up can be really powerful. Then we want to name it, right? So hold space for the resistance self, because you're like, okay, I'm feeling the resistance. Like, I want to do well. I want to meet my goals. But right now, this feels like a lot. So, what part of you is showing up? Like the resistant self. This is your resistant self. So, it's like holding space for her, opening, like, hey, who's here? Who's here? What Patricia do we have today? Um, the fearful part, the tired part, the doubtful part, the comfort seeker, the protector, like who's coming out? What is the resistance trying to tell me it's doing right now? Because if it's fear, if it's comfort, if it's, what is it? So we just name it and then we can kind of get really curious with this part, right? It's like, okay, if it's the protector, what does this part want for me? What is this part trying to do? And then it's like, what is this part really afraid of right now? Right? Like, why is it so afraid of this growth? What is it afraid of? What is it afraid of leaving behind? And then it's like, I know this is all kind of similar, but it's like, how is this part trying to protect me? Right? What is it trying to do? Be like, start seeing it as like, again, not the enemy, but like, how is this part trying to serve me in this moment? That is so powerful because it's allowing us to see, like, okay, you're not the enemy. I know you're trying to protect me. I kind of see what you need and want, and how can I give you what you want, but also what we need, right? That can be really powerful. Nurture, we're just going to kind of like meet the old self and resistant self with compassion. So it's like, okay, what do you really need? Like, what is it that we need? Do we need to slow down? Do we need to keep it simple? Do we need to like, take a little baby step? Do we need, to do just one more rep? Like little things. It's like, what do you need and how can I support you? How can I be here to make things easier, right? Easier, simpler, more effective. That way, it's not like I'm either resistant or I'm future self. It's like, okay, how do we work as that? I know I've said the same thing over and over, but how do we work as that team, right? And so step 4 is next, right? This is like, oh, sorry, I'm jumping. Apologies. Nurture is like, what does this part want me to know, right? Like the resistance of, what does she want me to know? What does she need in order to feel safe? What can I actually say to reassure her that, like, I see you and I've got you and we're still going to move forward, right? And not move forward with force, but like, we're going to move forward with doable, realistic, attainable actions, right? Something that we know we can handle in this moment. Because that doesn't mean I need to be all future self or all resistant. It's like I'm going to say, hey, my future self would be doing this one small thing. So I'm going to bring you a little closer. And I'm going to bring you every time we have practice with that, we're going to bring that resistance a little closer. That resistant self is going to lessen over time. Um, and then we move the bar right to a new future self, and there's going to be resistance again. So we just get to be this like caterpillar to butterfly all over again. It's great. Um, so then next is like we don't abandon our goal, right? We don't abandon the thing that we want. We also don't abandon the resistant part. We kind of find this path that honors both. What can I do with the part of me that what it desires to grow, but also the part that's scared. And so this is where we make a decision of one small micro action that feels, like I said, doable, realistic, attainable. Because if we have that, then we're moving forward. Yes, we're not, like I said, we're not going to be your total future self in one day. It's going to take some time and energy and effort. And the more we practice and put in those reps, the better and easier it gets. And we start to create that less resistance of like, oh yeah, I can do it. Because every time we are in these moments of resistance, these are actually the parts that grow us. Like it's not the easy to like the easy days and the easy times that grow us. It's always these moments, the hardest days, the days we don't want to show up, the days we don't want to do the thing. But the more we show up and do them, the more you're like, I can do this. Like you're giving your body and brain evidence that it can be safe and do that thing. So, workbook example. Um, so I created this workbook and I'll drop this in the chat as well. And in the workbook, I actually, like this kind of is like a snapshot of what we talked about. Cool. Now I have modeled an example here of like, I don't want to track dinner tonight. I think this is very real, the holidays, um, popping up more and more. There's lots of social functions. I don't want to eat, the like more basic meal. Everybody else is eating like, so, all the fun foods. They're just going all out. So I have an example here at the beginning, and then toward the end, it's your turn. So I will fix this. I forgot to take this out where it says example, but then you have blank pages for your own resistance. Now, you don't have to like print this out if you don't want to, but the questions can be really powerful. It could be something you save in your phone, put on the, top section of your phone that says, this piece of like, hey, this resistance like workbook. That way, if you need to, you can at least pop it up and like ask yourself the question and just even if it's not writing, although I'm a huge fan of journaling, like you can have just a journal that you write down the answers to. You could put like a page that says like notice, name. I mean, you could do half pages, whatever. And that way you're not having to like print this out, but you have a way of just slowing down and doing some of the questions. So, um, the example again was I don't want to track dinner tonight, right? So the first thing we would do is notice, right? And so in this space, it's like, okay, this is where we pause and it's like, okay, what am I noticing here? Like, where am I feeling this in my body, right? And so, for example, in the past, when I have been like, I don't want to track dinner tonight, where I feel it is I feel this like tightness in my chest. It's also kind of like hot slash warm. I say warm slash hot. And then my stomach almost feels kind of like knotted. And then there's almost this like heaviness that is like you can just feel like your whole body like tightening. My jaw feels really tense. My mind just feels like there's a million tabs open and it's like I can't close out of them. It's like I got to do this and this and this and this and this, and the body is sensing all here. And then, when I feel this resistance, what thoughts show up? It's like my brain is like, I don't, I don't feel like doing this. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Today has just felt like a lot. I don't feel like tracking. It feels exhausting. Like, look at all what I'm saying, right? The resistant self is showing up really hard. Maybe I should just order out tonight. Like that would be way easier, right? And underneath it all, like my brain is almost thinking, like, okay, if I can't do this perfectly, then I'm just not going to do it at all, right? That, like, why bother? That's Patricia. It's prime Patricia right there. And then what emotions show up? And probably the first thing I was like, excitement, right? That's probably seems odd, but excitement, relief are probably the first two things that pop up when I'm hearing my resistant self say this because what? She's almost excited that she doesn't have to do something. Like, okay, well, I don't have to I don't have to do this thing. I don't have to look at it. I don't have to think about my food. I'll just eat whatever. I'll just order out tonight. That can feel exciting in the moment, right? In the moment, it's like ha 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 yeah. But then the problem is after I know the other emotions are showing up, guilt, frustration, shame. Um, I said like honestly, some relief, imagining not having to do the tracking, right? There's like this sense of like, okay, that made my life easier, right? Now, name what part of, name the part, start with like that part of you, the part that is showing up is. So the part that is showing up is my comfort seeker. She wants comfort. Um, Probably also an overwhelmed one. Usually when I am just feeling like the heaviness of life and like this season is sometimes can be like more social functions, more parties, more tasks to get done. That can definitely make the season feel heavier, right? You just feel overwhelmed and it's like, I have no time. So the one who just wants ease and maybe even a little bit more control because it feels like everything is out of control. What does this part want and what is she afraid of? Well, she wants simplicity. She wants ease. She wants to not have any pressure on herself after dealing with pressure all day long, right? At work and with this and that. Um, and what is she afraid of? She's always afraid of disappointing herself, like not moving herself forward, not doing what she said she would do, and also fearing like pressure because we sense pressure usually with burnout. And so those pieces, it's like now we're kind of getting to know like who's showing up, who's here, who's here with me, um, and who's kind of trying to pull me back. Um, or what it, and really it's not trying to pull me back in the sense of like, but like, what is she trying to tell me right now? What does she want? So how is this part trying to protect me? Well, she's trying to lessen my stress, right? She's like, let's keep this super simple. She wants to be comforted. She wants to be seen. She wants the, not tracking food seems really simple, right? I don't have to log it into my app. But deep down, I know this strategy doesn't really work well for me. It's kind of an outdated. It may have worked for me once before, but we've learned since then. So she's trying to just keep me safe and keep me feeling in this space like less stressed, less overwhelmed. Um, so nurture, like what does this part of me want me to know? So the comfort seeker, the overwhelmed one. Like what does this part like, girl, I see you and hear you, right? You're trying to help me. You're trying to keep me feeling safe and you're trying to show up when things feel hard. You're asking for some kind of predictability when right now doesn't feel predictable. Um, what does she need in order to feel safe? Like literally, I asked myself here, like this was me like literally writing this because like I was literally asking myself like, okay, what do you actually need to feel calmer? What do you need to feel less pressure? What do you need to feel more safe, right? I was like, I need some time to decompress, right? And then I even said in my head, like, but how? When there's like there feel like there's no time. There's no time. There's so much going on. I have so much to do. I just need time for me. And it feels like there's no time to do that. So what I really feel like I needed was like, okay, I need flexibility today because safety is going to equal clarity, simplicity, and time, right? Having that is going to be able to lead me forward. And then what can I say to my resistant self, the comfort seeker, the overwhelmed one who's showing up? I'm like, girl, I got you. Like, I see you. I've got you. You're allowed to want things to be simpler or easier. And we're going to take action as future Sierra because Um, I know I want this, but I'm also going to have some flexibility for you. We're going to create a plan that makes it simpler, more flexible. So we're going to take this nice and easy. We're going to take it easy, but we are going to do, right? We're not just going to go do nothing. We're not just going to go order out. We're not going to just not track. We're going to think, okay, what is the next best plan, right? So this is where the next comes in. So this is the micro step. And it's like, what is one micro step I can take that honors both? So think in this space, we want something doable in less than 2 minutes that reduces pressure and moves you forward like 1%. So I am going to say, like, to her, to my resistant self, we aren't going to focus on everything. We don't have to do everything in this moment. So, what is one small thing I can do? So, for me, it was like, I'm going to start by just tracking one item for dinner. I'm also going to make dinner super simple. Like, I don't feel like cooking, so I'm going to take some of that pressure off. Um, and personally, for me, I usually have some, like, I always have some things on hand in my cupboard or freezer or pantry, or fridge that I can always pivot meals, even things that I've like, oh, I'm going to make this meal. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it a super simple meal. I'm not going to probably have the most delicious, fancy meal, but I'm going to keep it simple. And that's going to take a lot of pressure off. And how can I care for myself when I move forward? I'm just going to remind myself I can take this small action even if I don't track everything. I can keep a simple structure to my meals so I can do the P2 and a carb, right? Maybe I log my protein just to make sure I'm getting a good amount of protein and then say, hey, if I don't want to log everything else, I'm going to give myself that space to in this moment. And then I'm going to track my protein, keep that piece in, and then something I thought about at that moment was like care does not equal comfort, right? Care does not equal comfort. Care equals support. So sometimes we feel like we're caring for ourselves when we just kind of lean into comfort, but it's like care really is this support system. And so it's like, how can I lead my future self? It's like, okay, my future self is leading with honoring some structure without being super rigid and having my macros be perfect. She's choosing action that keeps momentum. Without the need to be motivated, she chooses the next right thing, right? The next right thing, but also not all of it. It wasn't like I'm going to go track everything and have a perfect dinner and crush my macros. It's like I am going to keep some kind of structure and consistency in place that is moving me forward and does help my resistance feel like it can tackle this next thing. And you know what? Maybe in that moment, I would just, once I open my fitness pal and start tracking that one thing, because I took the pressure off to log everything, I might be like, you know what? I'm already in here. I'll log the rest of it, right? So even that can create a ripple effect of like, even if my all three macros aren't perfect, cool. I can always go back into, okay, at least I can try to hit my calories and my protein and try to get my like non-negotiables of my fruits and veggies and things like that in. Like that is already so much better than just being like, okay, screw it, right? And so much less pressure, but still momentum moving forward. And still movement towards that future self that I want to be, tracking even when I don't want to. And then there's a reflective piece. So it's like, what did that old pattern reveal to you in that moment, right? And it's like it showed me it still needs softness. Like, sometimes we like hustle, go, go hard. And it showed me where my body was asking to slow down, right? It was asking to slow down. And especially when I've been going nonstop. And it taught me that my patterns are protective. Like they're trying to protect me. They're not problematic. They're listening to me. They're listening to me, um, and I might not be trying to listen to what they need, right? Which is very real. Um, Qualities that showed up. Qualities were like, I noticed patience, compassion, the ability to step back and pause and listen to myself with curiosity, right? Not judgment. Um, and also compassion, right? Like listening to myself with the sense of like, hey, you're trying to tell me something versus like, stop, stop being here. Um, like I don't force or pull completely away. Yeah. And then what did my body teach me? like my body's teaching me I needed to pause and get curious. Like my body's teaching me that when I do lean in with more like curiosity and like realizing that resistance is some kind of unsafety or a protective measure, that like I can care for her, but also continue moving forward. And trust me, it's not always going to be this perfect, pretty, like amazing thing in the moment. So just know that if you have a moment where you're like, dang, um, this felt messy, it's going to feel messy. Like you're not just going to be this perfect, like this is an example, but like think this is probably an example that I've worked through, more than one time, and that's okay. So, hopefully the examples just help and then it's in the workbook too where you can look back at it. Um but then, of course, you can go through some of the questions, and it may just be the first time you try this, not doing all four steps. Maybe you just do the first step, and you're noticing, and you're like, "Hey, this protective piece of me is showing up." Right? Maybe we can do the first two and just name her. You don't even have to do all the questions, but just see who's popping up, what she's trying to do to protect or serve you in that moment, and what she's trying to tell you. That, even if we don't do all four steps, it can be a really good start. So, this workbook I'll put underneath, but like, please let me know if you have any questions here, because I know it sometimes it's like in theory, you're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then when you do it, it can be a totally different thing. Um, so with that, a coach note that I just thought, as we wrap up here, might be really powerful because I never want our clients to ever feel like they need to hide resistance from us. Like, again, it's a signal, it's information, it's not a bad thing. And so it's something that we can decode together and get curious on because, especially like you're in it, I'm not in it. Shelby, Ashley, like we can look at it with a totally different lens, right? And we can help bridge that gap. And so it's a doorway to your next breakthrough, is what resistance truly is. So this is where we continue to transform and move, and you get to be messy, and we get to work with your three selves. And we also get to learn how to lead her, right? And lead with that future self. And so, with that, like when you practice these steps, what will happen? Your nervous system will calm down. You won't feel such like in that heightened fight or flight mode where when we're in resistance and trying to force, it's like, okay, we'll soften. Things will feel more clear, or like even your choices feel cleaner. Like you just feel like you have a better pathway forward than complete force of like, well, then I just have to track all my macros. It's like almost like this, like I said, it can even lead into a ripple effect, but it can also stop your spiral before it starts. Like before we go down this crazy rabbit hole of like screw it mode, it's like, okay, I have this opportunity to kind of pause and still think, what's my next best move? And even if that's the only thing you get from this training, and think of like you don't do the four steps, even though the four steps would be really helpful, thinking about that of like, okay, this is messy. I don't like it, but what's the next best move I can make? That can be really, really powerful. You shift from coping, to leaning into old habits to really creating what you want. And then also you build this beautiful sense of trust with yourself where you just realize like, I can do this. And you start to also rewire brain and patterns and habits and all those things. So again, how many times have I said this? But we are going to hear it a whole bunch. I'm just kidding. We're almost done. Resistance gets to be information to move us forward. And that is probably the most powerful thing of like reframing that and knowing that we get to like lead it and work as a team. So lead with that love. It'll help you just continue to access like more confidence, clarity, more autonomy, more courage, more wisdom. And the more we can stop just absolutely fighting ourselves and working with ourselves, you're going to see the shifts and changes happen. And even if it feels slow in the moment, like I said, they will stack over time. And, I love the tortoise and the hare because it's such a gorgeous example of like, we could be the hare and run ahead, but then we like get behind because we like stop, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to go hard. and then I'm going to stop completely versus the tortoise who's just like, I'm going to just, it might be a tortoise trucking through peanut butter and molasses, but she moving, right? Slowly and surely. Um, so you aren't the resistance, right? You're the woman learning to lead it. And that I think is the most powerful piece because it's like anything. Patricia, I know I talk about Patricia, but Patricia resistance, she gets to be in resistance, but I think we think like one day we're just never gonna have resistance. Like one day I'm just gonna have it all together and always just want to track my macros or always want to try to push really hard in the gym. And I think the reality is like we are human. We do have life happen. We're not robots. So resistance will pop in. Patricia will pop in, but they get to be a part of us that we like accept and accept in the sense of like not accept to be like, well, this is just who I am. It's like, hey, you're here and I'm going to be here to support and guide us to the next step because that's my job is like I said, that goal is to lead with that future self, not the resistant. So, thank you for our training. I know you're not here with me, but it feels like it. And of course, if there is any training, moving into next year that we are looking for, you just keep me, you can type it below. You can always send me a message. Anything that would just help your journey, things that you might be curious about, that we can like dive into. So, hope you have a beautiful day and we'll see you next time.